I'm someone who initially, I guess I was more neutral on AI. I thought, well, it's just this tool and I use it and I generate my characters. That was my favorite thing to do, some scenes. That's still probably the idea that it's a neutral and it depends on how it gets used is probably my most fundamental idea about it. But I guess more recently, I've gotten more and more hesitant on it. I've pulled back from using it. I've removed some of my own AI images, and there's various reasons for that that we can get into. But to lead into the conversation, I think whenever we were talking the other day, I appreciated a little bit of a counterbalance to my fears and my hesitations about AI. So I guess I'll just open it up with saying, what are your thoughts on AI?
So that's a massive question. Yes, I agree with you in that I made a decision like 6, 7 months ago that our community was no longer going to just sort of quietly tolerate AI. I did want to be um, just not agnostic. I wanted to be forward with it, not completely pro. Like there are some communities out there that exist to teach people how to use it to ship books. Like you do a prompt and you structure the whole thing and then you write the whole thing and then it publishes the whole thing for you. And, or, you know, that's not what our community is for. Um, we're here to actually learn the craft of writing itself because writing itself is a vocation. I routinely find myself in a weird situation where I see writing, the craft of writing, the point of writing, as a far higher and nobler thing than most of my competition or, you know, competition does. But I also have a more pragmatic view of the role of a storyteller or of an author as a person in this process than a lot of my competitors do. So I'm like, I'm on the outside, and yeah, it's a bit of a weird situation. So I've decided,
Okay,
okay,
before you get too far, could you
yeah,
unpack what you just said about the pragmatic view on the writer? I didn't quite
okay. So
grasp it.
where do I go with this? So first, on the one end, there are some who believe or who live and who act as if writing is a mere, or not even a mere, but it is a thing that you do to make money. Now, this is something that's a problem for anybody anywhere. You challenge somebody's ability to make money, no matter what it is, whether it's by um, competition or by underbidding them, which is competition, out producing, outperforming, like any of that level of stuff is a problem if you're trying to play the game of existing in a market economy, which all of us are. If you're trying to write for a market, you have a bit of a problem because you're playing the game of economics and you have to show up and earn attention just like everybody else does. And so you can't say, well, I'm an artist, I'm entitled to attention. That's that pragmatic side of saying you're playing a game of market. On the other side, I also sincerely and strongly believe that an artist, qua artist, as an artist in and of themselves, is a specific overlap between this realm and spiritual realm. You are a watershed for concepts and ideas that want to be communicated through you. And you have a vocation, which is a life path to discipline yourself, to maybe show up and listen or attune to it, to learn to translate that into a mode of communication, such as visual art and painting, maybe, or interpretive dance, or song, or words and writing, or filming, or I don't know. There's whatever artwork can be. Architecture is another one. All of these things that are intangible, non-physical things, the artist is the hinge point that is trying to communicate it and embody it into physical things. That is an insanely noble concept. The problem is when you are stuck, like most of us in kind of legend fiction, we're kind of like, well, which game do I play? I'm either a servant of the gods or I'm trying to survive. And that's kind of an impossible game to play. And I truly believe that you can't play both games at once. Here's my answer for how you straddle those two. First, you recognize you are the point. You're the point why this skill is here is because you're trying, like a radio receiver, you're trying to tune yourself into the right ability to receive something that is valuable. Now, you yourself are able to recombine and recompose and so on. Um, and then all of the things that you create, those are wonderful, but they're not the point. They're the byproducts of your journey. Um, you are trying to become something that is able to communicate something wonderful. I'm not saying I'm not being dismissive that all these creative paintings and art and novels that you create, they're nothing. I'm not saying they're nothing. They're insanely valuable. For some people, they may go on to become touchstones and hallmarks of life. But once you have finished processing through the meditative act of creating a novel, you might be kind of done with that. And so you offer that in a way up to the market, you offer that up for selling, or somebody else can benefit from that. And then you continue with your own process of trying to create, trying to scratch that itch, trying to delve and figure out, why does this matter to me?
Are you saying, okay, so this is the point of it, your own growth, your own kind of uncovering how God wants to use you as a tool? And then, yes, there's things that are economically valuable and materially valuable that will arise from that, but you can't aim at them. You need to be aiming at what God is calling you to do. Am I
So,
hitting on?
yes, but that's where I say it depends on the game you want to play. Now, I myself am not in a position, and I think you're not either. We both have full-time jobs. Those care and provide for our families and our survival. And so we can autopilot, in a way, that stuff. And then the stuff that really matters, in a way, we are free to enjoy that. Now, of course, it would be nice to make some extra income from it. And we want to get published and all of this stuff, because that also matters. That's part of the process too. But there's a different, I think, a level of detachment or honesty that you can maybe have when you're playing the game in that way. If you're somebody who is trying to be, or is, a full-time author, a full-time artist, a full-time illustrator, there are some people who do that absolutely amazingly. My contention or difficulty with that is, when you play that game, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, it can be an amazing thing. Just, you have to recognize you're playing a market game. You're not playing a meaning game. Technically, under either, you can't demand attention. You have to, if you're playing a market game, you have to earn it by being amazing, showing up for the right people. And if something like AI shows up and starts just printing stuff faster than you can ever create, technically can't really complain, because those are the laws of how the market game works.
I've told you a little bit about, I've got people close to me that have been somewhat financially impacted.
Yeah.
Like, what would you say to those
Before I
folks?
answer that, what goes through your mind? Like, where have you been able to park that thought and make sense of it?
Like, I have to sympathize with them. I have to tell them that's terrible. And then I can definitely have plenty of conversation about the value in a human created piece of art versus an AI generated image. I absolutely think that art is a personal growth vehicle. It does help you. It is, in a lot of ways, it is God using you. I wish I remembered Tolkien's Mythopia better right now, because I think it's a lot about that. But it is a unique kind of spiritual good that can't be replicated. Like, once you lose the soul that creates the art, you lose something of art. So I don't know. Is it morally wrong to sell AI art or AI images on a marketplace? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
I get the wrestling. Let me see if I can find a couple of different sort of thoughts in there. One is, okay, we talked about the market impacting people. I want to see if I can mention why I'm optimistic about the future of AI. Again, I don't think that there's a nice way to say this other than it directly applies to me too. The market does not owe me a living. I have to show up and I have to earn it every single day. And even if I have a job and a paycheck, I have to show up every single month and keep demonstrating and proving. Otherwise, they will, in their best interests, fire me. So, and that's just the game that we all, okay, whether we like it or not, it doesn't matter. That's the game into which we were kind of born. And if you're trying to have the specific benefits of Western society, you have to play the game of Western society. There are some ways where you can kind of opt out of the rat race. I wish I could. Anyhow, if you're trying, though, to play the game of how the market works in the First World West, which we kind of are, whether we like it or not, as of right now, you then also have to understand that's just the way that it is. And it's not very happy. It's not very nice. And I wake up raging against the dying of the light pretty much every day. I hate it. Doesn't matter. It's just how it is. I've got this image in my mind, right, of the Luddites, right? These guys are literal all heroes. They're artisan creators in the villages, and there are these maybe brooding bad fat cats who are trying to all put them out of business by building up these massive factories. And so these people are genuinely concerned about the loss of artisan, handcrafted stuff, and all of that being swallowed up by the factories, and also genuinely concerned by these slums that appear out of nowhere and just expand in all directions, and the pestilence that seems to arise by them, and the loss of life and the abuse of what's happening to children working younger ages, and homes being disrupted, and all of that being separated, and the society being reimagined, and so on. Now, it's been what, 400 years? There's no more artisanal crafts, obviously, today. Nobody does that because it's been completely industrialized. Well, no, people are still creating, but now we have easier access to tools. We still do it because it's human and we want to do it anyway. Right? Well, now it wasn't their fault. I don't think anybody could see it. Certainly, there was a massive amount of greed from the level of the billionaires of their time, but it's also multiple things can be true at once. Out of the Industrial Revolution, clothing, food production, human living conditions, just exponential improvements. Children lived longer. A lot of good things also happened. The difficulty was, and there's no way to blame anybody at the time, was a lack of imagination of knowing what was even conceivable or what could happen once it was done well. We're at that same point right now with AI. It's harsh and it's unfortunate. The thing is, the market, again, doesn't owe anybody anything. And that's, unfortunately, it's, we're really sorry for anybody who's put out of work. And that's why there's a whole human family sort of thing. We care for each other. And this sort of gets into the next point you were saying about art being done by people. I agree with that. Okay. It is insanely valuable for a human person to kind of shut out the world and work on a piece of something artistic. That's what legend fiction's about. I don't actually like the idea of trying to create really meaningful work by having AI totally print it for you. You're commissioning a machine. That's what it is. You're not an artist when you are commissioning a machine. You're like an art director. The thing is, though, that argument doesn't hold up for everybody. Not everybody wants to get into the zone in the moment. They may not have the time, skills, capacity, life path, or whatever. It's the same thing with farmers going, well, look at that stupid factory. You're ruining the value of somebody getting down in the dirt and learning how to do all of this stuff on their own. Absolutely true. Someone manually hand building a house from scratch, I am sure that is an incredible experience. I will never do it. You could not pay me to do it. I will use a machine, or I will pay somebody else to 3D print that house, because I don't have enough time in my life to learn all the skills that go into that. So when I hear an artist go, you can't do that, you are robbing yourself of the dignity of learning this new skill. I'm like, have you seen my bills? I don't have time to do all of this extra thing. So this is why it's not a fair argument for someone to go, it is inhuman to accelerate specific parts of the creative process. So see if I can make my last point and then punt it back over to you. The reason why I think AI and AI art, for example, this is one of the major points for this conversation, why I love AI art. And I got into a bunch of hot water with it because a lot of people on my YouTube channel do not like it. And there's a bunch who really, really do. Artists have pioneered a medium of communication. Throughout all of human history, artists pioneered the medium of painting, the medium of writing, the medium of carving and whatever. Artists pioneered this medium. And then what did we do? Is we trained a machine on that medium, that mode of communication, so that the rest of the human family could now copy that mode of communication and use it too. There are arthritic grandmas out there. There are blue-collar workers who will never have the time to get an art degree. There are teens in underprivileged areas, or even just across the country, right now, who do not have things like the 401ks, the relaxation, the ability to buy whatever coffee they want. They don't have the budget, don't have the time. They will never have the skill to learn art. But if they still have valuable things to share with the human family. What happens if you're born in the slums and you will never have a chance to learn a creative art? It is for those people, which is most of humanity, basically, that tools like this become insanely valuable and for the first time in human history give them an ability to also contribute something valuable. And if someone can commission a machine to create something that communicates what they see and what they would like to share, that helps them do that, I think this is an insanely incredible time for the human family. And I think it's going to we'll keep finding ways of doing it well and getting better.
When you talk about AI being a sort of key that unlocks possibilities for people that grow up in a slum, what are you envisioning there? Just out of curiosity, are you envisioning something like a book cover? Because a book cover is a thing. If you write a book, it can be expensive. If you want a good looking book cover and you want a person to do it,
prohibitive.
Yeah, I've recently learned just how expensive it can be. Is that kind of what you're talking about? Or are you thinking more ways for someone underprivileged to express themselves by tweaking AI generated images or writing or what?
I think it makes sense to refer to a lot of generated art, especially if you're a creator. I like to think of it as concept art. Because if there was a magical day that would come where I would suddenly have a ton of money and I could hire a real artist to come and do this stuff, oh my goodness, would I prefer to do that. But a lot of things, when it comes, especially to books, that's what we're about. When it comes to books, an insane amount of what it goes as normal in this industry space is insanely cost prohibitive. I need to stop using the word insanely. Is extremely cost prohibitive. And there's not really any reason beyond it, except that some people make a living off of just doing book covers, and inflation keeps climbing, and so then they have to keep raising their prices, and the rest of us aren't getting pay increases. And so some things just all of a sudden become priced out of our ability to do anything. So all of a sudden, we've got this widening gap of excellent people who can deliver an excellent artistic product. And it's completely priced out of most of the market's ability to actually do anything with it. That's really sad and unfair. So that is one reason why AI is created. It's to democratize access to all kinds of things, to democratize access to coding, to just access to anything, to creative output and creative vision. So how do people use it? I love the fact that AI turns every single author for the first time in history, turns you into a production powerhouse. You now are industrial light and magic for your world. We've never had this before. No author could have ever dreamed of this before. Now we can. You can invite people into your world. You can create book covers. You can create art. You can share and demonstrate what kind of world you are creating. And if you can present, and how do we present all this? Well, through social media, you put it on your website, and as you go out and you get book tours and book signings, or you market your book, with ads and stuff, people then, readers get a chance to get a feel of your world the way you feel about it, the way that you see it, and they're able to immerse themselves more quickly into your world. You've spent time externalizing that, not just in words. Now, for the first time, you can do it in concept art and concept visuals as well. Just those two right there. Even if you don't get into like AI generated movies and stuff, which is a conversation I still haven't yet figured out, or how to make that possible or accessible for authors. It's fast coming though. Like, I can't believe how fast that's coming. It's amazing. At the same time that all this is happening, massive production studios, Apple, Netflix, Disney, they're looking at the indie author space to see who is showing inordinate levels of engagement with their audience and interest, and who's putting out really good stuff. The author for the book Silo, he self-published that. His first covers were complete crap. He didn't generate anything. He used a basic Amazon template, and it looks off. How he sold that and became successful, I do not understand. He's now a multi-million, billion-dollar series on Apple Plus with 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Rachel Ferguson. My gosh, it's an amazing.
Great show.
I'm watching
Great
it.
show.
Yeah.
Rebecca. It's Rebecca
Excuse me,
Ferguson.
Rebecca Ferguson.
I love Silo. It's great.
Alchemized, right? Alchemized, I think, was a fan fiction on some forum somewhere. It's now got movie rights, or it's a movie deal going through. Massive book picked up. These are indie fiction authors. Some agents out there are working overtime to scroll through what are people really paying attention to, because the blockbusters are not cutting it anymore. They're
not
rubbish.
blockbusters anymore.
No,
yeah,
they're not interesting.
They're not good.
And it's the indie fiction authors who feel like they don't have to swallow any particular party line or agenda or whatever, who are able to write for their audience and who will not leave or abandon that audience. They're creating stuff that the audiences love. And so some of that will include art. Now imagine you got an agent coming up and they're able to see, well, this is the world you've created. We're looking for movie rights. We're looking for game rights. And to be able to walk into that conversation going, well, here's all the concept art. Now let's get real people to come in and do it better. This is a future we've never conceived of before, right?
I tell you, I mentioned the character art. I know I've shared it with you, but
it's
of
so
my
cool.
my three main characters in particular for Fear of the Sky, the novel that should release this year, but being able to get, and I did those 3 or 4 years ago, so who knows what I could do now. But being able to tweak and explain what I wanted these characters to look like, and to end up with my 3 main characters, these portraits of them in a style I liked that felt like it'd come right out of my head. It took a long time. It did kind of unlock my ability to share a vibe, what the characters. I also did a lot of concept covers with AI, and I have a real human artist that's going to be doing my cover, but it definitely helped to put different styles and different ideas into these AI image generators.
Until somebody's able to convince me otherwise with all of this stuff, I think I'm right, just like everybody else thinks they're right, right? And
yeah.
Artists are the best people to learn to use this tool. Because the thing with an artist is an artist starts with a vision, and then they work with a tool, whether it's a paintbrush or an LLM, think it's a chatbot, whatever, a generator. You work with that tool to accomplish a goal that you want. Creators are the best people to learn to use these tools. They will create the best outputs. And invariably, this is what already happens. I have people who also like AI, and they will routinely come to me and go, can you just create my thing for me? Because you've got an eye for it. You know what you want to see, then you can develop something that looks actually good. And since we're trying to play a competitive market game, if it's not good, it won't sell. If you create something bad or something that doesn't look good just because you're trying to be authentic, well, don't complain if nobody wants to buy it. We are competing on excellence. You want money from somebody else, you've got to promise excellence. And then you actually have to deliver it if you don't want a bad review. Everything is about excellence. And yeah, there's a lot of bad AI, and that's absolutely true. I won't argue with any of that. It's used badly. It's done by bad people. It might have been started in improper circumstances. I'm not sure about all of those things, but I do know it can be used really well.
So is it fair to say your outlook on AI is there's some pain associated with it right now? Fair enough. But long term, we're going to come to look at it like we would a lot of other advancements in art
100%.
and technology.
Absolutely. Okay. I like this point of view that one philosopher shared, that humanity would have always needed to create a tool like AI, especially for an era like today. It's impossible for mere human cognition to wrestle with all the questions and problems that are needed at the speed at which they need to be answered and solved and processed. We would have always needed a cognitive amplifier, the same way that we have an amplifier for our hands or a mech suit for our bodies to let us drive down highways, right? Because for some reason we need to get places faster, so let's build an augment for that. Or I need to dig in the ground. You know what? Let me just do it in a tractor. And yes, I know at first we put a ton of people out of business, but hey, look at how much more food. Now everybody can eat and we're not going hungry anymore. That's better. And now look at all these people who now can do artistic stuff if they want. or people who can now go and build homes by hand if they want, or maybe work less if they want, because that's the other. No, I need to get off my high horse. The first world West, the way it is constructed, is a nightmare that is almost intentionally crafted to burn out individuals and keep you from any sort of higher thinking, spiritual advancement, creative output, and everything is co-opted towards what do you need to do to survive? And there is no sense of rest. There is no sense of humanity. You have to get really far away from cities, really far away from Western culture. And unfortunately, a lot of us we can't do that. We got to stay here. We got to provide for our families. So if there's a tool that comes along that's a cognitive amplifier to help you do stuff with the few bursts of energy that you've got, because you're not able to unplug or detach from everything, that's a win, because the creative output thing you want to do is probably a good enough thing that should exist.
I very much hope you're right. I have my doubts about AI allowing for more rest in our culture. I'll say that. We're running short on time, so we're going
Yeah,
to
sure, I
wrap it up
understand.
pretty soon. But um, I know that in my line of work, and I do very boring environmental compliance work, but in my line of work, I can already see these ways where worst case scenario, departments get cut in half, environmental departments. Or you can look at it and say, well, is our world going to a place where AI allows us to work less? Are our work weeks ever going to are we ever going to, in the West, get over the 40-hour work week, which I understand to be the child of when you worked in factories? We don't work in factories. So can we please take advantage of technology and AI and allow ourselves to rest a little more? Because burnout, I think you're about my age, right? I'm 38. With our generation, um, I mean, that's a real thing.
It's
There's
real.
so many people every time you talk to them, and it permeates down to your family life, your kids, um, that what we expect children to be doing all day, every day. They've got to be in every event. They have to be in every extracurricular, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Everybody's got to be in something. And it is exhausting. And so you just mentioned rest. And so you also mentioned your high horse. I'm going to get on my horse and just say, I hope that if something good comes out of AI, it is that it allows us to rest. And like I said, I'm not so sure I believe it will happen, but it's possible. And I hope it does.
Well, I don't believe that something will sort of spontaneously emerge out of AI for it to be a solution for everything. It's a tool. So it depends on who's going to be using it. And I think the tool of how AI is, it's a bit like putting gas in a car. The question is who's driving it and where is it going to
Mm.
go? And how passive are you going to be about it? And there are some people who are way too good and who are way too invested in wanting to do good, and then who will get their hands on this tool and they will be able to use it to magnify the amount of good that they're able to do. So there will be a point where AI is going to continue coming specifically for my job, right? As a designer, um, I've got a tool I want to demo for the Mastermind, which is a tool Google created that basically puts me out of work completely. Where you just input your brand, you input your website, and it creates all of your ads for you. It creates gorgeous book promotionals for you if you're trying to sell books. It creates ad campaigns for you. And I look at that and I go, well, I should go be the plumber, like my mom said. But I can also go the other route. And I'm like, I'm going to learn how to use this really, really well, because invariably there will be a percentage of the market that will go, well, I don't need to hire anybody to use these things. I'm going to go use it myself. And then there will continue to be a massive section of the market that goes, I don't ever want to think about these other things. Let me go work with somebody I trust and let them take care of it because I trust their take on things, because I don't know myself how to communicate everything that I want. So there will always be a market for people who can offer specialized, services. But I can't, for example, if I was an artist, I might not be able to make a living as an artist unless I had a super unique style or a super dedicated fan base. If my art looks like everybody else's, I have nothing to compete with. If I'm a web designer and I'm doing bottom of the mill basic websites, I can't compete against the fact Canva now prints websites straight out of their editor, right? So we have to challenge ourselves on what does it mean to work? What does it mean to do good work? What does it mean to use tools to amplify the amount of good that you can do at the service of the human family? And then how do you thread that needle as a mature, discerning adult to put all those together to help you to create the income to provide for yourself? And yes, I think that AI will continue to come for a lot of us, but there will be a lot of us who will recognize its benefits and who will find a way to integrate it without losing the human component, because we still got to live in this thing. We want to be a part of the adventure. But if you're running your life like an NPC, you're probably all the group that are going to have a really hard time with this. But if you're doing one creative thing every single day, just one thing, you're automatically opening your brain to new possibilities. You're opening your soul to new opportunities by being more aware, by doing one different thing, one creative thing every single day. And tools like this can help with that. You can't outsource yourself to them completely, and then you're back to being an NPC. It's like, well, you can't compete as an NPC.
Might quote you. I'm gonna put that on a coffee mug. You can't compete as an NPC. That's a really good one. Like I said, I appreciate your perspective. It's definitely nuanced and considered, and it comes from a good place. So it's given me a lot to think about. Thanks a lot, Dominic. I appreciate it, and I guess I'll speak to you soon. I look forward to hearing more about Legend Haven.
Yeah, hope to have you there.